Coming up on This Week in Space, NASA has a new chief, there's an interstellar icy visitor from beyond, and what's up with that big, beautiful shuttle plan to move Discovery from the Smithsonian to Texas? We'll find out, so listen in.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is This Week in Space, episode number 168, recorded on July 11th, 2025. Survivor NASA. Hello and welcome to This Week in Space, the Survivor NASA edition. I'm Rod Pyle, Editor-in-Chief of Vadaster Magazine. I'm joined by my fellow space worrywart, Tariq Malik, Editor-in-Chief of Space.com. How are you, partner?
I'm doing well, Rod. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm okay. I've missed you for 2 weeks since we were hanging out in Orlando and me getting COVID and you not getting COVID.
I did not. My dad did, but
yeah.
But luckily,
about that.
I know he shook your hand. You're the super spreader, Rod.
Well, it's possible. Although the timing, as I worked out the timing, when I got it, when other people got it, probably wasn't me, but it could have been.
It's not as if there weren't like 7 other conferences going on at the same time.
Yeah. So for those who might have missed our on-site edition of the show, we did a live podcast from Orlando, Florida, for the International Space Development Conference, where Tariq got his Space Pioneer Award.
It's right here.
Fun was enjoyed by all. Oh, let's see it. Where is it?
It's right here. You can see it.
Well, hold it up so we can see your fancy copper
Mars.
eyes, pewter Mars.
I love it.
Finally the groupies.
I know. I'll put it right back where it goes. Right there. So
yeah. So now we both have one. We both have Mars globes, but it was great fun, and a few of you showed up to be in our live audience. Now I just want
Tanya.
Yeah, I just want to our massive live audience. I just want to say up front here. Well, I guess it's behind that we had intended to be in a more traditional setting, but because getting a single Ethernet wire into that room cost $1,000 a day at that hotel, we were forced to set up in the operations room. So it was a little ad hoc. You know, we were behind a table. There's some chairs pulled up. A few people walked in looking around like, this is where they're doing their thing. But everybody enjoyed it. And just as importantly, the National Space Society leadership enjoyed it and said, please, next year, do this formally. We'll get you, an auditorium and blah, 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 or something along those lines. So for those of you who did make it, thanks very much for coming. We have more Space 2.0 shirts for next time, and we'll dress it up more and get you finger sandwiches or something. And for those that didn't come, shame on you. Make it a priority. All right. Today we're going to dive into headlines because it's been a while since we've done that. We kind of did it.
Been a bit of a whirlwind of a week, too.
Yeah, it's been like on fire the last couple of weeks. But before we start, as always, don't forget to do us a solid. Make sure to like, subscribe, and the other good podcast things to keep us on the air. And now, a space joke from my fellow National Space Society heavyweight, Dave Dressler.
Dave!
Hey, Tariq.
Yes, Rod.
Einstein had a theory about space, and it was about time, too.
I get it.
We got the laughing mouse. All right. Now, I've heard that some people want to pull us out of space-time when it's joke time on this show, but you can help. Send us your best, worst, or most indifferent space joke at twit.tv. And now, on to the headlines on an episode we like to call Survivor NASA. Survivor NASA. Jammer B says, that was a thing. Thanks a lot. All right. So, yes, and I took off my safari hat because here we are now. So, by golly, what a whirlwind it's been.
It's been like a week. I thought it was over, and then yesterday there was a whole Senate thing and everything too. So it just
that was kind of a bombshell, wasn't it?
I know, right?
It had been talked about, but I don't think any of us believed it would happen.
Yeah, there's some stuff too. Yeah,
it's not through yet. But so in your mind, just before we jump into that, what do you think the odds are we'll get the extra money?
Oh, yeah. Do we have to mention the bombshell first? Are we not going to talk about the story? Anyway,
We'll do it in proper order. You can
yeah.
do it.
Well, I don't know. It's out. So there's a fight right now on Capitol Hill about to give NASA more money than what Trump wants to give NASA, and
more money than we've seen since, in relative terms, since like 1966.
yeah. So I mean, that's loggerheads. If you have to find an example of what it is right now, and I think it's going to be a bit of a fight to see where they can get, because there's folks in the House, representatives in the House, that really want those budget cuts and everything. And if the Senate is saying they want to give more and the House is saying no, I don't know how they get anywhere. And then, of course, we've been under a CR for how many years?
Continuing
Rod?
resolution.
Yeah, I mean, like forever.
A decade, maybe?
So we'll see if they ever get a budget.
So, the weird thing about this is, and we'll talk more about it, but you're looking at the White House under Trump, who started the most recent Back to the Moon program, which was kind of a continuation of Constellation back in the aughts, the Artemis program. They say, yeah, we're going back to the moon. No, we're not giving you money to do it.
Yeah.
So that's weird. And then, it steps up this Senate. I mean, and they've got, valid motivation. They've got districts who want money, depending on what state you're in, but it is spread out over many, many states. And the puzzling part to me is you've got this back to the White House who says, we're going to beat China to the moon. We don't like China very much. He's a dictator. We're going to show them that capitalism and democracy rules and blah, 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 blah. But we're not going to spend the money to do it. And then you've got the Senate saying, yeah, we'll spend the money. So I wonder, do you think it's possible, because of the way Trump operates, that maybe there was a thought there and maybe some back channel conversation about, look, I'm going to say I want the budget cut. You guys go ahead and put the money back so I don't look bad and all's fair.
No, I mean, I think that there's a lot of posturing on like cutting the budgets just to say that we're going to cut, the expenditures. But I do believe that they were serious, that like it wasn't like we're just going to do this so that people see it, but we'll roll it back again later on. And you mentioned something about not giving NASA the money. What they were doing in that initial budget, it wasn't that they weren't going to give it for exploration. It's that they were going to like redistribute everything and cut the science out so that they would pay for the exploration part of it. So I think that, I mean, there's of course there's talks about all the Artemis stuff, about shutting down SLS after Artemis 3 and all of that. That would be significant cuts, but I think that you could make a case that said that they were trying to shift everything towards exploration, even though they were going to gut like the only rocket they built to do it right now. So I don't know. My head is spinning from this week, Rod. So I'm trying to like figure out what's going on.
What I find really objectionable is, we can cut SLS because we love Elon and he's got a big rocket that'll be working soon.
But then we don't. But then we don't love Elon.
And then we hate Elon and we're never going to use that, but we're still not going to give money for the SLS, which I will just remind everybody is the moon rocket that we have. And this is the tariff president, right? So we've seen this brinkmanship, this kind of
even this week.
Seemingly arbitrary stuff. So I think the smart money here is to put a tariff on the moon.
There you go. The sad part is I wish this was all like a new thing for this term. Obviously we saw a big push for space in the first administration. But remember, I mean, we've talked about this before.
The first Trump administration.
The first Trump administration. But, back in 2004, we were there when they unveiled Constellation and said that this was going to get us to the moon by 2020, no less, and it's going to cost $100 billion. And then at the same time, Congress still never gave them the money to do that. And
but to be fair, it may be the remnants of Constellation that does get us to the moon, except for the Altair lander.
But the point was that the problem, it's the same problem. It's them, NASA saying it's going to cost this much. Congress and the administration at that time not really putting the money where their mouth was to say that it was important, and then administrations change and priorities change, and then we go through the dance over and over and over again. And
whereas China just says, "Here's what we're going to do for the next 10 years. Any questions? Okay, shoot him. Good. Moving on."
Oh, you're going to get us sued, Rod.
China can't sue for that kind of thing. All right, let's go to a quick break, and we'll be right back to talk about the maybe, sort of, kind of new NASA interim administrator. Stand by. So, So it's only been a few weeks since Jared Isaacman was pulled from consideration, which, as far as I know, never happened before, at least not at that short a juncture before it was supposed to happen. So he will not be our NASA administrator. Janet Petro, who was a longtime KSC official, had been thrust into that role. And
is that me? What was that?
That's our timer. It's okay. And so she had been filling it, and ably, I think, she kind of had to toe the line between being as responsible as possible towards NASA's priorities and also responding to the White House priorities. And she kind of appeared to fall in line as not a Trump supporter, but a Trump policy enabler when it came to NASA. And then out of the blue comes an appointment of a new interim NASA administrator, Sean Duffy. I was in a meeting with a bunch of National Space Society heavyweights when this news came out, which I informed them. And to a person, they said, "Who?" And I said, "Sean Duffy, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation."
That's right. That's right. It's a Wednesday night. So we always record these on Fridays normally, and this actually happened Wednesday night. And so that it went out. And I tell you, so NASA now has their first reality TV show star alum chief with Sean Duffy.
Kill me with a spoon.
I had to do a crash course to actually understand who he was. And luckily, like Mike Wall, our spaceflight editor, has a great roundup of Duffy. Obviously, he's a transportation cabinet secretary, a former CNN, I think like a pundit, right?
Fox
or
News,
Fox,
not CNN.
Sorry.
That's like 180 degrees off.
Well, apparently he was a political commentator on CNN, and he was a lobbyist. Yeah.
That I didn't see.
Yeah, so
reality TV star, Fox TV star,
Congress, right? He was in Congress,
congressman, and then
Wisconsin.
Finally, right, and then possibly most importantly, widely perceived as a Trump loyalist, which is probably what got
You forgot world-class title holder in logging in lumberjack sports, because he grew up doing that as a kid. So he has titles.
He's kind of
awesome. That part is pretty awesome.
Putin, you can see me riding my horse with my muscles thing going.
But it's interesting because it doesn't, through reading through his career, and again, I'm sure that you've seen, if you follow NASA, a lot of overviews of who Sean Duffy is. But Mike Wall has a really good rundown of his career overall. You don't see a lot of, I think space is great, and I'm gonna really get into the nitty gritty of it. And so it's unclear how much of an interest he has had. Career-wise in space or space exploration, or if there just wasn't anyone there, and this is an appointment of convenience, which would make a lot of sense to just say, hey, I've got this guy. He's very supportive of my policies with transportation. He's doing some work on FAA safety enhancements and stuff in the wake of the troubles that we've been having, especially in New Jersey.
He's got a lot of work ahead of him.
Yeah, and so we'll give him NASA on the interim basis so that we can have somebody in charge regularly. Janet Petro can go back to KSC, which she has done this week, to oversee the Space Center there, and then they can proceed with the administration's plans for NASA, which from a budgeting appointment, we were just talking about that, not great. From a staffing appointment, not that great either. We've got some news on that today, this week from Politico too, to talk about, and so they can have someone in charge and try to maybe move on from the Isaacman discussion, because we saw that come to a head over the weekend again with Trump complaining about Isaacman and I guess his Democratic donations again. Isaacman shot back saying, hey, it was never a surprise. It was always in the documents.
You've known that for a year.
Yeah. And so
can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah, of course.
So there's two schools of perception that I'm hearing from the pundits I talk to. One is, oh, good, they finally brought somebody in to oversee the dismantling and destruction of the space agency we created and love over the last 60 years. And on the other side, well, he's a cabinet level guy. He's got access to the president. He can lift his phone and call him up. He doesn't have to go through a switchboard to get to him, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So maybe there's something there. But one of the big questions, as Scooter X pointed out, in Discord is, how the hell is this guy going to run DOT, which is already stressed to the limits and understaffed, and NASA? So on the DOT side, they've got, rebuilding FAA infrastructure, bridges, and rail, which of course Trump said, oh, he's going to build beautiful bridges. Well, I don't really care if they're pretty. I kind of care if they don't fall apart when I'm driving over them. So there's a lot going on there. And then to hand him the premier space agency on the planet Earth, which has, even if they get the increase, it's still only about 70% of Space Force's budget. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but Space Force, they've got some build out to do, which is understandable. They don't fly people. So why are they getting 30% more money than NASA does in best estimates, or about double what NASA does in the leanest estimates? This is not okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, because this, again, like, I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. So I see the argument that he'll be there in the cabinet meetings and can say, this is what we're doing at NASA. This is what we need for whatnot. But
hey, China's going to land on the moon next week. Did you guys want to try and maybe get there too? Something like or how about this black hole research that we have to get out before someone else gets it out, and then they become the first to take a picture of XYZ. I don't know, but it's or how about we honor our partnerships and actually fly Europe's moon rover or so
Mars
I just
rover.
commissioned an article from a space journalist we both know. We'll see if he decides to do it about. I want to talk to ESA and others, maybe JAXA as well, and say, how do you guys feel about this?
Yeah.
Because if I were you, I wouldn't trust us as far as I could spit, because we keep backing out of programs that we commit to, and China doesn't.
It's funny you should say that, because one of our writers, Daisy Dobrzhevich, just got back from the ESA Living Planet Symposium in Vienna, and heard like a good amount from scientists there who are saying, yeah, we have to step up because the U.S. isn't going to do it anymore. And one of my writers heard at AAS that a lot of scientists are getting, calls from overseas saying, hey, if you're not getting the stuff you need in the U.S., we've got needs for scientists like you, and that and brain drain.
Work for the military, civilian program in China, right? That
brain drain is going to be real. So, but the other thing, the thought that's running in my mind from this naming is it that they're in a normal process, like without all of these layoffs that have been going on, would it have been that there was enough folks kind of keeping the ship running that you could have like that mouthpiece in the cabinet, that mouthpiece administrator in the cabinet that would help steer things, get the money or whatever sorted, and whatnot, while the long term agency staff just kept everything proceeding properly and on track. I could see that argument if there weren't these mass push to get people out of the agency. And I mentioned it earlier, but we could talk about it now a little bit. Politico has a report that says something like 2,100 senior level management type or senior level expertise type employees are leaving NASA, either through reductions, through deferred resignations, through early retirements, from that push, because they don't want to be there anymore, or the agency has pushed them out through these layoff efforts. And that is a substantial loss of expertise, when you're trying to do these big things like go to the moon and everything, spread across the different centers. I guess they all have headcount targets to reduce. I didn't know that until reading that piece, how specific they were. Something like 500 people at Johnson, 500 people at KSC.
And that's a lot at an organization that size, especially when you're talking about senior level. I was talking to some JPL friends a few days ago, and the place is like a morgue. And of course, on top of this,
JPL, there's news
all
there
this and stuff, they're doing a review of JPL's management by Caltech, and that was very alarming to a number of us. Basically saying, hey, we're putting out, this is NASA, we're putting out a request for information, not an RFP, not a request for proposals, but a request for information, which basically means they want you to come in and give them advice for free, and then they ignore you and you never hear from them again, because I've been through that process a couple of times. But a request for information about who should run JPL and how. Now, Caltech's been running JPL since it was JPL. NASA came in the 50s and conjoined, but I think it was 50s, early 60s. And but because of its history, Caltech still ran it for NASA. Now, that's the only field center that works that way, and I can understand why people have some reservations, but it's created this very unique collegiate culture up there that I think to some people, possibly including some people at NASA headquarters, it's elitist and like, Northeastern kind of blue elitist kind of thing.
Well, it's where they dare mighty things, right? So,
but it's created this culture that, NASA did very well overall during the Apollo years, but since then there's been a struggle. The stuff you see JPL do, and I'm a little biased, but I mean, when you've got rovers that work for 15 years, when you've got orbiters that work for longer, close to 20, when you've got Voyagers coming up on 50 years, you have to respect what they do. Is it inexpensive? No. Is it reasonable? It depends on how you look at it.
Does it work?
But it is simply remarkable, and it's the envy of the entire planet. So to gut a place like that, there's a few senior managers I can think of that probably it's beyond time for them to consider retirement. But those aren't the ones that are going to leave. They're going to keep soaking up paychecks as long as they can.
We should note two things. Number one, when Rod says that he might be biased, it's because he worked there at Caltech and JPL for a number of
partly
years, right?
that,
So,
and partly
but also
because I
just want to mention we saw that at NASA Watch, which is doing a fine job tracking all of these things that is coming down from
Keith Cowing.
Management, from management and from the agency, the directives that they're getting. So, hat tip to NASA Watch and Keith there for that spot. So,
who's able to extract and pass along the ugliest of news. Okay, speaking of ugly news, let's go to a break and we'll be back to talk about the big, beautiful shuttle. Stand by. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the most amazing shuttle you ever saw, and everybody knows it.
It's going to be huge.
Part of the big, beautiful bill included $85 million, which is a drop in the bucket, to move the Space Shuttle Discovery from the Smithsonian Udvar-Hazy Center in D.C. Ooh, you're flying one. That's cool. To too bad you're not on camera. To Houston. So this came from Ted Cruz and Cornyn, right?
Yeah, Ted Cruz and Cornyn. I have my reenactment. So here is the space shuttle in the Smithsonian, and the big beautiful bill says, "Here's $85 million. We're going to grab this and we're going to take it all the way over here and put it in Texas."
Oh, except that we don't have a shuttle carrier plane anymore.
We don't. Yeah.
Maybe we can do it by truck. Oh, that'll cost $2 billion. Maybe we'll do it by barge. Oh, that's very dangerous. Oh, we hadn't thought of that. And by the way, that $85 million isn't just to move it, it's to create a place for it to live at Space Center Houston, which is going to cost a fortune. And if I may add one more opinion, then I'm going to cut you loose on this. If you have tracked how Space Center Houston, which I love, they're a great place, have treated the Saturn V they have, which is over on the campus of the Johnson Space Flight Center, it sat outside for 35, 40 years, really decaying, and then they finally put it in a building, which is fine. But it was basically, if you've seen those ads for the General's metal shed, they bought a big metal shed, dropped it on top, and said, "Here you go." It does protect it, but it's a rotten way to display something as remarkable as Saturn V. KSC did it much better. And, I realize there are financial constraints and all that. But what does that bode for a space shuttle compared to, say, what Los Angeles is doing, displaying a launch configuration?
Yeah. So for folks, we've talked around it, but we haven't really specifically talked about the details. But the big beautiful bill, which is this massive, what is it called, a policy bill? So for the administration, it has all these different directives and laws in it for what the Trump administration wants to do, and in that, as part of that kind of omnibus package, Ted Cruz and Corwin of Texas included this measure that would set aside $85 million for the move of Discovery. Discovery is the most flown space shuttle. It is the space shuttle, the spacecraft of record in when it comes to museums, which means that the Smithsonian kind of is keeping it as pristine as possible, as if it just stopped on the runway after its final flight in 2011.
And if I may say, it's the space shuttle that I got to get aboard and sit in the commander's seat of back in 1997.
They never let me touch anything. Thank you for bringing. You know what? That's so much better than flying on the zero G flight.
I knew you were going to go there.
It's so much better, and you keep lording that one over me. But
that's all I've got.
Well, and
you have more people coming to your website than we have reading our magazine or coming to our website. You get a far better paycheck than a certain editor-in-chief I know. You command the respect of the world and get invited to all these cool things. I'm lucky if I get some stale donuts for free, you know?
Well, maybe if they move the shuttle, they'll let me touch it finally. I don't know. But
that sounds a little creepy the way you
say
it.
Well, what I'm trying to say is
touch it.
Well, the way that they kind of chose, as I recall, because it was really interesting to watch, is that all of these, the Smithsonian, would get kind of like the initial nod to showcase as like the national museum of things. That's where the Wright brothers plane is.
But
it's
excuse
where Spaceship
me,
One is.
To be clear, as I recall, once something of NASA's comes back to Earth by charter, doesn't it automatically revert to ownership by the Smithsonian?
Well, when they retired the program, when they delivered it to the Smithsonian,
yeah,
like it's like if all like with all the museums, it's like theirs now, right?
But I mean, what I'm saying specific to the Smithsonian is Apollo capsules, unused engineering twins for the robotic probes and so forth. Basically, when NASA says we don't need this anymore, first rights go to Smithsonian, and if they take it, they now have ownership and or possession of it permanently.
Yeah, if they take it, then it's also with like Enterprise at the Intrepid and Atlantis at KSC Visitors to Complex and Endeavour at California Science Center. Once they have it, right? It's theirs. It's theirs. As I understand it, and I was talking to our historian friend Robert Perlman about it today. Like what you're saying is like that's accepted. They accept it. NASA signs it over to them. It's like you're signing over a car that you sold so that you can get a new car. Oh, except that in our case, our new car is not a nice giant winged reusable space plane. It's a bunch of capsules and a rocket that took 18 years to build. Anyway, not that I'm salty about that at all.
Well, can I just insert a point real quick?
Yeah.
So the Cruz and Cornyn are like, okay, Houston deserves its own space shuttle. Damn it. Mm-hmm. You sent one to LA, you sent one to New York, et cetera, et cetera. We want ours. Oh, wait a minute, Texas. You have the full fidelity mock-up shuttle called Independence, used to be called Explorer, at Space Center Houston already, on top of one of the two shuttle carrier planes. It's virtually indistinguishable to the lay eye from any of the other shuttle orbiters. And it's already sitting on top of this very specialized plane, one of the two that would have been able to carry Discovery back to Texas where they're still flying, which they're not. You have a shuttle. It's big. It's beautiful. And it's got a gantry so people can walk inside of that one, which you can't do with the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can walk inside it. I think you can go inside the carrier plane too. I haven't seen that exhibit at all. I haven't had the chance to go inside.
I've seen it from the outside, but yes, you can go into both decks of the shuttle or see both decks of the shuttle from a gantry walkway, which is an interesting thing. And then you can go all the way through the carrier plane. Yeah,
as you pointed out earlier, there are two of those carrier planes that we built, that NASA built. And one of them is there at Johnson Space Center. The other one, I think, is in Edwards. Is that where, or not? It's not called Edwards anymore. At Armstrong, I think.
But it's mothballed.
I could be wrong. Oh yeah, it's been mothballed, and so we don't use that anymore. And there's equipment that they used to build to put the shuttle on top of that. They don't have that. It takes like 5 cranes to do, and so there's a lot of questions about where you would do it and how you would transport it and get it across. I mean, it took it took forever to get those shuttles on the ground streets, like from the LAX to California Science Center. Like it had to go up a whole bunch of streets. They had to cut down.
It was major. I was down there for 3 days. Yeah, they're removing lampposts. They're cutting down trees.
When
they
it was
actually
here,
had to remove pieces of buildings.
When it was here in New York, when they delivered Enterprise to New York, it was at the airport forever. Then they put it on a barge, and then it had to come all the way over. Then they had these huge cranes. It was crazy.
But at least they didn't have to drive it through the streets of Manhattan.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Wow.
The taxi drivers honking behind it the whole time.
So, $85 million is not going to cover like all of that. Backing it out of the hangar that it's in at the Smithsonian Udvar-Hazy Center, transporting it across somehow, getting it, from wherever it lands to the Johnson Space Center, and then building whatever building they need. It's not going to cover that at all. Maybe they think they're going to get more money later in the future. It's not clear, but the last thing you want to do is start it halfway, run out of money, and then it's just stuck outside or in a shed or whatever for years to come.
Which is what happened at the California Science Center. We got Endeavour. It sat in a metal shed for, 15 years? 12 years? With plans to do something better. So they have now done something better. They excavated and are building this big, fantastic building that will display it in launch mode with an external tank with solid rocket boosters. They're not going to have vapor coming out of all the vents, which I had asked for, but they said can't afford that.
That seems like a no-brainer. I mean, they could add that later.
Well, because it makes a living, breathing thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that structure alone and the engineering and design for it, I think, is up close to $200 million.
Yeah.
So the $85 million they're going to get that won't even pay for the move leaves it sitting, I bet you money, sitting outside or in a tent building for the next 15 years while they figure out what to do.
Yeah, and the same is true here in New York, because Enterprise was supposed to be on its own special barge next to they have a submarine at the Intrepid, encased in glass and visible from both sides of the river where it is. Right now, it's on top of the Intrepid in what was initially like it's a temporary shelter that has since become permanent, that is protected with the corrugated
isn't that
metal.
Convenient? And that's what we really meant to do.
Yeah,
we'll just call it permanent.
And that that one got damaged during Superstorm Sandy.
Really?
The tail got damaged because of the structure on top. So
the tail of the orbiter?
Of the orbiter, yeah, the very top, the vertical stabilizer. Pardon me for calling it a tail. I apologize. So there's a lot of open questions about it. Now, there was a development yesterday, and we've got another line, John, for this. If you've got room to share, it is line 26. And this came up during a Senate Committee appropriations hearing the day before we recorded this episode.
Ooh, and look, a whole page of text.
Well, the part to call out is I believe it was Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois during this budget markup, and he says that this transfer bill of Discovery, it's not, he says, and I quote, according to Robert Perlman at Collect Space, it's not a transfer, it's a heist by Texas because they lost the competition 12 years ago.
Robert said that?
No, Dick Durbin, Senator Dick Durbin. Come on, man. So like they are trying to take the money out, right? From this Bring the Space Shuttle Home Act that is in the big beautiful bill, and say like we're not going to do this, and as part of it. So they're talking actively about pushing against that act right now. How they do that, I'm not sure, because now that act is law, right? Because Trump signed the big beautiful bill on July 4th, which I think means they have to execute it right now, unless Congress changes the law, which I guess they can do as well, to pull it out. I'm a little murky. Somebody, please, listening out there, explain that how they would do that to me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, like that's some strong language. It's a heist, and so we'll have to see like what happens in the weeks to come, because the feasibility thing about it is it alone. That's that ownership point that you brought up earlier. could lead the Smithsonian to sue. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I guess we're trying to see where the chips are going to fall because they don't seem that they're already done.
So you see the little brush fire in Discord. Jammer B saying, "Sue him, take it to court."
Yeah.
See, saying, "You mean a law just like the TikTok ban?"
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of bans, we need to go to a commercial. There's no conjunction there. Sorry. We'll be right back. Stand by. Well.
That was if we sound real salty, I'm sorry. I just think that's a stupid idea to move the space shuttle out of the Smithsonian. It's like dumb, but that's just
and it comes, in other times it might not be quite so contentious, but it comes after a year, at least if you're in the trade of reporting this stuff. I mean, I feel like I've been through Hurricane Sandy. It's just this constant battering of they did what? He said what? Huh? What's happening? Oh, we're not going to get back to the moon? Okay, I guess I should have expected that. Wait, what? They're cutting the budget, but they want to get... What?
Well, maybe with Duffy, like things will be a little bit more laser beamed. Like the messaging will be clearer. I don't know.
We may not like it, but at least it might be clear.
We may not like it, but at least there'll be like a clear picture of what's happening.
Next story. It came from outer space.
Oh, this is
31 Atlas.
Yeah.
A new visitor of the solar system, which I guess has turned out to be another comet. How dull.
Can I issue a correction?
Sure.
It's not 31 Atlas. It's 3I Atlas. So
God,
the I is for interstellar. So
I wondered what that was supposed to mean because there hadn't been 30. Okay. It's 3I Atlas.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. I stand stupefied.
Yeah.
Swinging through our solar system from interstellar space. Third such object to be identified. The most famous of which was Oumuamua, which is made most famous by Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb because he contended it's an alien machine. Anybody can see it. Everybody knows it. It's big and it's beautiful. Which, an assertion that was enhanced by an observed very slight acceleration as it swung around the sun. Should not have been accounted for by physics, but of course, as other people pointed out, hey, if stuff melts in the back half, which is facing the sun, it's going to give it a propulsive burst. But no, Avi feels it's for sure aliens, along with those BBs picked up out of the ocean off of.
This is really exciting because in less than 10 years, we have found 3 interstellar comets or objects.
Interstellar probes, please.
Well, come on now. We don't know enough, but we're already learning about this new one. So this new one, like you said earlier, is called 3I/Atlas. It is the third interstellar object that humanity has ever discovered passing through our solar system. It was discovered, I want to say like earlier this year by the Atlas Detection Network, and it follows, as you said, the 2017 detection of one interstellar Oumuamua and 2I Borisov, which we saw in 2019. And so with these the like initial like studies of it so far, and it's still very fresh. It's not we haven't been studying it for very long. It does look like it's potentially water ice rich, which you would expect from a comet, but they think that it's actually like the oldest comet we have ever seen in the history of observing comets.
3 and 11 billion years, I think, which is a pretty broad estimate, but still,
they think
that's
it's
cool.
3 billion years older than our solar system alone, right? So that's crazy.
Well, maybe more if it's 11 billion.
Old.
Like
so
almost back to the day one.
And this is like a July surprise. They discovered it on July 1st. You said maybe 11, but like they're saying like 7 billion right now. Okay. But they could refine that because these are all very early. In fact, I just saw an announcement.
Actually, we could do the rest of the episode with you just pointing out my mistakes.
Oh, well, no.
Now, there's so many of them, clearly.
You were right. No, it could, who knows how old it is, man? And who knows? By the way, you mentioned Avi Loeb. He does have a post out on Medium about this object saying that that it's still really unclear if it's a comet or something else, like an asteroid, that it seems to have a spherical. He mentions it could be of technological origin as well there, but it's not like up front. He's really looking at kind of the data and the haze, that it doesn't have as much dust around it as you would expect from a comet, but it could be a rocky body, something more like that. But it's really interesting. They think that it came from a completely different region of the Milky Way than the other 2 that we've seen so far, which would be very interesting to see.
I should have downloaded a sound effect from Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Have you ever seen that movie?
A long time ago. Yes. Is
It
that the one where they
opens-
land in DC?
Is either opens or I think it opens with the aliens broadcasting somehow miraculously across the entire planet. People of Earth, attention! Look to the skies for a warning. And I like and respect Dr. Loeb. He was the chair of the astronomy department at Harvard. On his first round of all this. Later he wasn't, but chairs do change. But it just got weird. And at one point, I was trying to get him on the show, as you recall.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have an exclusive contract with Netflix." And I thought, oh, dear, because that's how it starts, right? That's how all the weirdness begins with an awful lot of people. And, and I was trying to hang in there with him, trying to have an open mind, which is a challenge for me because I'm a curmudgeonly old man. But when he chartered that ship and went off the coast of Papua New Guinea because supposedly Space Force had detected what might have been an interstellar object hurtling and slamming into the water just off the coast, and they did some dredging and they came up with a handful of little concretions, little BBs. That's interesting, but when stuff goes through the air and melts, a lot of weird things happen, and he immediately, within 2 days, he's out on the news saying, "Look, interstellar machines! It's proof of aliens." It's like, come on, you're not doing yourself or the scientific community any favors here. Okay, sorry, I'm done ranting. I did want to add.
Go ahead.
This is a great workout for it wasn't discovered by Vera Rubin, but it's being investigated by the Vera Rubin telescope, which is just a couple of weeks active, and they are expected to use both the Hubble and the Webb Space Telescope to investigate. So this will probably be the best investigated object of its kind. And I just wanted to make the point, in this age of science cuts, that the Vera Rubin telescope has already found in 3 weeks, 2,000 new asteroids.
Yeah.
And, part of the reason for that telescope and for looking for asteroids is to find out which one's going to slam into the planet and ruin your day along with maybe another 3 million people. So that's kind of looking at the GIFs on Discord. They're burning it up here. This is important. So it's tangential to what we're talking about. But the work that, Hubble's given us decades of these incredible things that have inspired the public like crazy. The Webb has continued that. And now we've got the Vera Rubin, which is going to keep you from seeing your city wiped out. Mm-hmm, so, these are important.
Yeah, and in specific relation to 3-1 Atlas, to this interstellar object, they're just getting started. It's not like we've missed the boat, that this is it, that we're going to know.
Did you say 3-1 Atlas?
3I. Oh, 3I. Oh, my gosh. What? I stepped right in it, Rod.
Wow.
That was entrapment. You all heard online, right? You all heard that Rod tricked me. So
I'm just sitting here like a dum-dum, as I usually do.
I'm just here doing my own thing. No, the 3I Atlas is getting closer to the sun as it passes through, so it will start to heat up. The scientists say that they're already seeing activity begin. Michelle Bannister of the University of Canterbury in New Zealand saying that this is a really exciting time, and that with some of the biggest telescopes already observing it, they think that they're going to be able to both refine their ages, estimation for it, their composition knowledge of this thing, where it came from in our Milky Way. They could learn a lot from that over time. And they name dropped the Rubin telescope, like you said, Rod, because it's the most powerful camera that we have on the planet, looking up into space. And so we're going to find some really unique things and hopefully get some really great images of this object right now as it passes through.
Cool. All right, let's not.
By the way, ESA, really quickly, ESA is planning a mission that's going to position a spacecraft near the sun, like in a solar orbit, that will wait for a visitor like this and try to rendezvous with it. So that'd be interesting to see too, if they are able to get that to off the ground.
Now, would that possibly also be able to see some of these solar close NEOs that are so hard to to observe?
As I understand it, it's like a tech demo mission to see if they could actually intercept an interstellar object. So if they want to add that to it, they could, I suppose, but it's not approved or.
Hey, just send me up. I'm wide enough to intercept anything. All right, I want to do one more real quick before we go to our last ad break. And it is no to Pacific rocket landing. So Air Force and possibly Space Force, although it said Air Force in the story, has shelved the plan to build 2 experimental rocket landing pads on Johnston Atoll in the Central Pacific, which we've talked about in the past, due to environmental concerns.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be able to test, this rapid deployment by rocket, presumably Starship or something like it, from point to point on the planet. Which,
they never said Starship. They never said Starship.
Yeah.
They just,
well, and I guess you could do it with a Falcon 9 if it was reconfigured, but whatever. So they wanted to build these 2 experimental pads on Johnston, which is good because it's out smack dab. If you looked up on a chart, quote, middle of nowhere, unquote, it would be Johnston Atoll. It's roughly equatorial. It's out in the Central Pacific. And as I've mentioned a few times in the show, I've been there once for an hour or so.
It's about 900 miles from Hawaii, right?
Yeah, and within the first 5 minutes, you reconnoitered all of Johnston Atoll. It's basically a big dining room table in the middle of the Pacific. I don't even know that there's trees there anymore. It's literally just this flat atoll, no mountains.
Did you say a big dining room table? Is that what you
said? It's like this big rectangular thing just sitting there.
Oh, okay.
There's no vertical relief. There's no land features partially because it was scraped down to make a runway, which was what it was used for during World War II, but also because it's an atoll, which is basically just a coral butte that rises up out of the ocean and then gets eroded and turns into this flat thing that's, roughly 1 to 3 feet above sea level. It's a dump, okay? It was used for
the
military
birds
landing.
Live there.
Well, give me a second here.
Okay.
It was used for transshipping weapons loads. It was used for, I think, nuclear storage at some point. It was definitely used when I was there. They had a little shed at the end of the runway where they burned biological weapons that were no longer needed or wanted. So it's not been a pretty sight. It's basically like a super fun site in some ways. And so while I support environmentalism in general, there are just some instances where you want to say, guys, yes, I know there's a few seabirds there. There's a couple of species specific to the reefs, few as they are. But, there's a lot of atolls in the Pacific Ocean. And, how thoroughly have the complainers really studied what damage it might do to have rocket landings there? This would probably be every 3 to 6 months at most. And there's a lot of noise and fury for a few minutes, and then the rocket's down. Depending on whose rocket it is, let's say it's SpaceX, methane and liquid oxygen are not going to harm this thing. The noise might, but the compounds, no. It's basically cow farts and breathable air coming out of that rocket, combusted, by the way. And since they weren't, as far as I know, weren't specifically talking about using it as a launch pad, it was a landing pad, you don't even have the kind of impact you have from a launch where you have to store fuels and all this stuff. They'd basically just be tipped over and put on a barge and sent back for refurbishing. So this feels a little extreme on the environmentalism side. And personally,
that sounds great if the rocket works, Rod, but this is the world's largest rocket that we're talking about. And if it doesn't work and it hits that atoll and it explodes and it's as small as you say it is, that's it for that atoll and all the birds, right? So like there are worst case scenarios that I think you're not thinking about that
have you ever
are
been
very
to
front of
Central
mind.
Park?
Yes, I've been to Central Park.
So do you remember Tom Lehrer, who was writing songs in the 50s and 60s? He was a satirist. He wrote a song called Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. It's all about a Sunday stroll where he's poisoning pigeons in the park for his delight. That would be tragic and awful. However, there's a lot of pigeons in Central Park.
Wow.
So I guess
everyone is hearing where Rod stands on the birds.
I know. And I'm generally a liberal, but bear with me. There's a lot of seagulls, okay? There's a lot of shorebirds.
Some people would say, why do you even need to use this atoll for the rocket cargo landings when SpaceX...
do you see what you did there? Why would you need to use this atoll at all?
There you go, right? Because SpaceX lands their rockets on barges, just build a bigger barge. build borrow or rent sea launches platform, where they used to launch things
those are
and
good
land it on
points.
there. I mean, there's a lot.
But then
that
you're
they
going
can
to harm
do.
the water around the barge when the
Well,
rocket
there's
comes
that
in.
too. That's why we don't have a Sea Dragon, because they were going to do all of that. I'm just saying there's a lot of other things that could be entertained to say this is a little bit more sustainable than like this whole thing where, again, if it works right, like when NASA's been launching rockets out of a nature preserve for like 60 years, if it works right, there are some things that I guess people can get comfortable with. If it doesn't work, if NASA launched a bunch of stuff out of there and they came back and blew up and lit the whole of Merritt Island Sea Refuge or whatever on fire, we'd probably be talking about different stuff. Same thing at Wallops. There's a whole seashore village there. So,
all right, you atoll hugger.
I'm
Hey,
just saying.
You see,
they blew up their pad.
Of course, Jammer B jumps in on Discord and quotes lyrics from Poisoning Pigeons of the Park. They call it impiety, a lack of sobriety, and quite a variety of unpleasant names. And then Judy had to come in from another song, I think called The Bomb. So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. We'll all go together when we go. Okay.
I love the community. I love it. You guys are awesome.
Unfortunately, I can only see Discord, so pardon me for those of you on the other platforms. I need to adjust my system so I can see you better.
I got locked out and have to reset my password for that one. So.
Oh, please.
I know.
And he hasn't bought a light or replaced the negligee over his right shoulder.
But today is Prime Day. It's the last day of Prime Day. I'm going to buy the light today. I haven't bought it.
Okay, so I got to send you that data. Okay, let's go to our last ad, and then we'll wrap up here.
Yeah.
The next one we'd like to call, "Hey, give me back my job, man." Take it away, brother.
Well, yeah. So wait, which one are we talking about? Because there's like three. So there's like a whole package. There's like three other things that happen, and part of it is
just
from NASA
jump
Watch,
right in and roll around.
Politico, part of it is from space. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about JPL and like the kind of early discussions. It seems to change management there, but there was also this report from Politico, and I talked about it earlier in the chat, where there's something like more than 2,000 senior staff are set to leave NASA, all because of like some of the job cuts and the push to do that. And yesterday, when we talked about when I mentioned the Senate had this appropriation meeting, there was some pushback on a lot of that reduction there, and trying to make sure that there is funding for the science. There is funding for the research and for all of the people that would allegedly be, or not allegedly, that are being pushed out of the agency right now. And so, I think it's a little bit interesting to see how that's going to go. But the big question that I think I have is that, let's say that this Senate push to recover the some 47% of NASA science funding that's going to be cut gets back into there. Are those people that are departing going to come back to NASA? Right. Like that's not clear to me, and that's one of the points this Politico.
And excuse me, but is there a reasonable pipeline to allow them to come back?
Yeah, right. I mean,
tough.
So because the Senate amendments, at least in this early stage, and of course it got, by the way, this whole thing got like hung up. They didn't finalize the vote because of disagreements over the closure of the FBI headquarters office. So they didn't make any headway. They're gonna have to do it again and vote on the 17th, I think, to try to get this budget process going. But the big question there is if the Senate succeeds in getting this money back for NASA, so that, as you said earlier, it has now more money than ever before to try to execute the science missions and the spaceflight missions and all of that. Will those 2,000 people be able to come back? Will they want to come back, given that the experience that they've had through all of the DOGE cuts, through the administration cuts, through this kind of very strong-armed budget process that is happening right now, or will the people that have their jobs now that are worried about them be able to stay? Right. And those are questions that are still all really in flux, I think, right now as we go through this process. So I just want to have a note to discuss that a little more, to remind people that there is potential those people can get their jobs back, or those jobs could be saved. But it really moves at the speed of Congress, which is, I think we've all seen. Yeah, exactly. Not the greatest. Not the greatest.
And I just want to add one note about JPL that I meant to say earlier. It's had its critics over the years. There are people that don't like the system there because of the Caltech involvement and all that. However, they are not civil servants. They're Caltech employees, which means there's no pension. The benefits are fairly minimal. I mean, you get medical and you can buy membership to the academic club at Caltech, the Athenaeum. That's about it. And you get access to a 401k. So basically it's like working for any other small company that says, hey, we'll give you a 401k without a lot of extra benefits. This is not a knock on Caltech. This is just to say you're not going to save a bunch of money by bringing it into the NASA fold, even if it's through a contractor, because they're already kind of living on short ends, and the pay is well below industry standard. So give me a break.
And on the flip side, there was a Supreme Court decision earlier this week that basically cleared the way for the Trump administration to do a lot of the government mass firings, both with contractors and federal employees, I believe, as I understand it. So like that's what, when I say like it's really weird and hard to understand like where things are, it's because they've got this kind of sign off from the Supreme Court to do these government layoffs. You have the senators saying, no, we want to give them more money so that they don't lose the brain drain or lose the brain drain to other folks. You've got a new NASA chief that's coming in that could add either some stability or some rubber stamping, depending on what happens over the next few months. And then you
or
also
just
have
pour gasoline and drop a match. Yeah.
And you have thousands of people who have already said, you know what, I'm just going to take the buyout. I'm going to take the push. I'm going to go, or they've already been laid off, and they may not be. That may be talent that is irrecoverable for the time being. And all of this is all happening at the same time, and it is really hard for me to understand and wrap my head around it on a day-to-day basis. And I can only imagine what it's like to be on on the ground floor in these centers, doing this science and finding out all of this stuff and trying to figure out what it means for you and for your job. So, we're going to hopefully get through that. In fact, Isaacman at ISDC, he said that, remember, about how it's a really tough time right now, but there is a tomorrow on the other end. One way or another, we're going to get there and able to figure it all out. So,
and I just want to make a point that I've kind of touched on before, but for anybody who's visited or worked at NASA facilities, I think there's this perception amongst a large percentage of the public, I won't say in which states, which thinks that NASA employees are elitists and that they're making tons of money and they're in these incredible settings with all this largesse and so forth. And it's like, stop believing what you see in movies. It ain't like that. These are run down, grungy facilities at both Johnson Space Center when I was there working briefly, and at JPL when I was there working longer. These are like surplus steel case desks from the 1950s, from the Korean War, old beat up file cabinets. You're in a little teeny office, in my case, with no windows, back to back with somebody else who basically, if you rolled, you'd have to say leaving. So when you rolled your chair, they'd roll their chair forward to get out of your way. I mean, it's dumpy, but it's what they do to get by with what they have. And this was before these cuts. This was years ago. So, these are not, they're intellectually they're high-end jobs, but in terms of pay and conditions, it's basically like working at a foundry. So give me a break. Don't support this kind of thinking.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. Your description of what it was like reminded me about like during the shuttle era when you'd go to the round robins at Johnson, and they would have you in a little cubicle that they had made from those kind of portable bulletin board type things, so you'd be in there with a bunch of wire chairs with the astronaut for like 5 minutes.
Well, if you were lucky, it was kind of like visiting somebody in the state pen at JPL when.
But Building 9 was awesome, man. Building 9 with all the mock-ups.
JPL, if you went to a press thing, you basically had banquet tables set up and power strips duct taped to the top of them, and you were sitting like a foot away from the next guy.
Yeah,
and passing breath and COVID back and forth. Okay, just want to insert something here, and then Tariq, last story is your pick of the Oscars.
All right.
We want to send congratulations to Nick Hague, who was just promoted to General.
General Hague!
We had
Sir.
him on the show
Friend
a
of
few
the
weeks
show.
ago. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll have him back, but Angel Orozco, who was the one who set all this up for us, wrote me today and said, hey, just want to let you know, Nick was promoted to General, so congratulations, General.
He is
Big
the very
salutes.
model of a modern Space Force general, right?
Big salute from This Week in Space.
There we go.
Yeah. Do you want me to sing that for you? I'm the Mary
I thought I was
a modern spacecraft general.
I thought I was really clever saying.
Oh, you're always clever. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
It went over like a dud. So, all right.
John was just sleeping. It's okay.
So
Can't blame him.
I'm going to shotgun like three really quick ones and to close out the
TikTok.
the day.
Okay.
Yep.
Go for it.
And just a big heads up, if you didn't know, there is a private mission at the International Space Station right now. It is Axiom 4, commanded by the always awesome Peggy Whitson. We got to get her on the show, Rod. And it has
Didn't
India's
we have
first.
her on?
I maybe we did, and we got to get her again.
I think we did. I'm glad I'm not the only one that forgets.
Yeah, they launched a couple of weeks ago, and they will be undocking from the International Space Station on Monday. We believe they'll be landing like within the day or two later to come back to Earth. So by the time we have our next episode, they should be back on the ground. So congratulations to them. The India Space Research Organization agency's first astronaut to the ISS. So that's really exciting. Poland and I believe Hungary as well. So it seems like that mission's been going very well. They've been cooking up a lot of great space food for them on the station with Johnny Kim's Twitter posts. So it's been very exciting, and they've got a lot of science that they've been doing too. Meanwhile, there is a report from Space News and Jeff Faust, who is in Tokyo right now, which is exciting. I would like to go there one day.
Why is he in Tokyo?
I don't know, because now Space News is behind a paywall, and I've already used my 3 articles for the month. So, but
your budget's like mine.
but he does have a report out of there stating that there are more discussions now that the next Starliner flight, Starliner 1, which is supposed to launch sometime in early 2026 now instead of late 2025, will actually be a cargo-only flight. And so, I don't have many details of this, again, because I couldn't actually read the article. It is behind the paywall, and I'm looking into trying to get access to that with my company so that we can actually bring that good stuff to you as well. So Space News is great. $20 a month. I think it's on sale right now for $14 a month. That's not a plug. No one's paying for us for that. I think Jeff is amazing. But that'll be very interesting if they do that, because that's been a question that we have had for a while. Will NASA require Boeing to fly another uncrewed test flight that is spotless with Starliner or not? And it seems like they are pushing more towards that angle. Meanwhile, there are supposed to be tests this summer about different parts that they fixed, like the thrusters and those dog houses. We actually tried to get more information about them, and they're saying, that stuff we said back in March when we pushed the launch to 2026, that's the only update that we have right now, which seems like strange that they don't have an update about that. So keep your eyes peeled and listening for that. We don't know what's going to go on. Jammer B, they likely won't take the seats out. They'd want to keep a dummy in there to get that, like what it feels like for the astronauts, to get some measurements for that. And finally, we'll end on a happy note, Rod. Did you know that the James Webb Space Telescope celebrates its 3rd year of operational science this week?
I did once I read your story header.
That's right. We've got a story there on line 39, John, in case you want to show the very pretty picture that is the Cat's Paw Nebula, 4,000 light years from the Earth. Yeah, I know, in the constellation Scorpius, and they just released it this week to show these close-ups of the toe beans that are on the cat's paw.
Can we see the cat's
itself.
paw nebula?
Well, John's working on it. Come on, man, you got to be patient.
36. Okay.
So
it's in the Politicos. There we go.
There we go. And so this is, Webb has got a 5-year nominal primary mission. We're 3 years into it, and so it's been doing amazing science. I think my jaw dropped with this mission when they launched it because it had such an intricate deployment phase, and it all went off spectacularly.
Oh my God. Over 400 separate articulations had to go perfectly for this thing to work.
I know,
it sat on the ground for years. It was behind schedule.
It got all messed up during testing when they broke it, and they had to fix it again.
And all I could think about was the Galileo probe to Jupiter. Because it sat so long, the lubrication dried out on that deployable antenna that they would never do again.
Yeah.
It was a big wire umbrella. They get up there, the antenna gets hung up halfway through deployment, and they got to work on the low gain for the next 12 or 15 years, however long it was active. I mean, just because of driving back and forth to KSC so many times and not servicing that thing before it deployed. Simple oversight. So when you do that kind of stuff, it makes everybody nervous. Yeah. So
a happy operational birthday to the James Webb Space Telescope. These images are fantastic. It's discovering new exoplanets and pushing back our veil of the Big Bang. Absolute spectacular. You wonder where your tax dollars go? It's this stuff right here.
Well, and I was going to say, look at that image and try to understand what kind of impact that has globally when the world sees this kind of stuff that until very recently only the United States could do. And even at this point, still, really, at this resolution anyway, only the United States could do. I'm not a bragging nationalist here. I'm just saying, if you're looking to exercise geopolitical soft power, if you're looking to lead in space, like I keep hearing from every freaking administration that comes and goes, particularly this one, if you're looking to be global leaders in space flight and science and education and all that stuff, this is how it's done. So, give them the money they need. Okay, do you have anything else?
Well, like NASA says in the announcement for this photo, it's the cat's meow. That's it. That's my kicker for today. So
that is a sad kicker. All right. Well,
somebody look on the floor. I think Rod's eyes rolled out of his head.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today for episode 168 that we like to call Survivor NASA, as you heard the second time we played that video. Tariq, where can we see you watching over our favorite space agency online?
Well, you can find me at space.com, as always, on the Twitter and the Blue Sky at Tariq J. Malik. If you like video games, I'm on YouTube at Space Run Plays. Superman is in the game now for Fortnite, and Superman, our favorite alien, right, from the planet Krypton, hits theaters this weekend. I'm going to go see Superman on Sunday. It's going to be great.
Your 6th grade teacher must be so proud. And of course, you can find me at pilebooks.com or at astromagazine.com. And remember, you can always drop us a line because we do answer our emails at twit@twit.tv. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and ideas, and probably I will answer them. New episodes of this podcast published every Friday on your favorite podcatcher, so make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, and give us reviews. We live and die by your reviews. Well, and by you joining Club Twit. 5 stars or a thumbs up will do nicely, in addition to your monthly or annual Club Twit membership. And by the way, I should mention, you can join Club Twit now back to annual memberships as well as monthly ones. Or do I have that backwards, John?
No, we have yearly.
That works. Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the order right. Because it helps your favorite network of podcasts stay on the air and bring you all these great shows. And if you've listened to the other ones, you know how swell they are. And then, of course, there's always us. And with Club Twit, you get special benefits. You can see behind-the-scenes stuff, like Tariq falling out of his chair over and over and over again. I like to put it on again. I like to put it on a loop for repeating, so I can just keep watching you dump out of your chair, and other behind-the-scenes stuff, along with ad-free content. So you just skip right over those because John is a nimble-fingered editor when it comes to doing what he's got to do. $10 a month now. I got to change that. $10 a month, monthly and yearly. Sign up and do it. You can also follow us on the Twit Tech Podcast Network at Twit on Twitter and on Facebook at twit.tv on Instagram. Thank you, everyone. It's been fun, and we'll see you next week.
No matter how much spare time you have, twit.tv has the perfect tech news format for your schedule. Stay up to date with everything happening in tech and get tech news your way with twit.tv. Start your week with This Week in Tech for an in-depth, comprehensive dive into the top stories every week. And for a midweek boost, Tech News Weekly brings you concise, quick updates with the journalists breaking the news. Whether you need just the nuts and bolts or want the full analysis, stay informed with Twit.tv's perfect pairing of tech news programs.